What is going on, guys? My name is AK, back in with another YouTube video. Now in today's video I've got my top 5 tips for better communication in Call of Duty. So communication is one of these things that people really don't realise separates the good from the great players. It's very evident if you listen into the Astro Gaming listen-ins they do during the Call of Duty League. You can hear that the pros have very certain things that they do while communicating, the tips and tricks that they know that I'll be sharing with you in today's video. Now I think you guys are going to find today's video really interesting, so watch through to the end so you don't miss anything. And also, if you do enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to follow me on my journey to hopefully become a pro player. Let's get straight into it. Tip number 1, now this is a really important one, and that's don't rage in game. Now this is from two different perspectives. Number 1 is if you've been joked, say you've died and it was a very internet based gunfight, you know, they've just got good internet. Don't get angry at it, don't sort of rage and scream, oh, how did they kill me there? Instead, just focus on getting that call out quickly to your teammate, because quite often I've seen it that, yeah, you'll see this where someone gets joked and they're too busy raging that they don't call out where the player is, and then they get their teammate killed as well because they don't know that information. So I know it's hard, I sometimes get angry at the game as well when you get joked, but just try as good as you can just to get focused and make that call out first. You can always moan about things after the game. Now, on the subject of moaning about things after the game, the next one I'm talking about is if someone on your team makes maybe a stupid play, a wrong call, or just chokes a gunfight or something. Don't get angry at them in game. Now, I know this is sometimes hard if you're playing with people that aren't very good, and it sort of is frustrating you to see that the fact they're essentially throwing the game. They might not realise they are, but they might be. Instead, keep that criticism until after the game, because it just sort of really loses the vibes in game if you start moaning in game. Oh, why did you do that? That was a stupid play. Why did you do that? Instead, just sort of just keep it in your mind, and I mean, by all means, try and damage control in game. So if someone makes a bad play, call out what you should do instead, but try not to make it sort of a criticism in game. Just sort of make it a normal play call, and then after the game, talk about it. Talk about what went wrong in a sort of a non-in-game environment. Now, this doesn't mean don't criticise people. I definitely recommend that you do if there's someone that needs to learn something. Just as I'd be very happy if someone criticises me, said, okay, you did this wrong, and instead do this. That information is very important to help people improve, so definitely do it, but just not actually in the game, because that really sort of loses the team's vibes and can mess up the rest of communication as a whole. So in short, try not to get angry at ridiculous kills and keep the criticism until after the game. Step number 2, now this is probably one of the most important, and that is be concise. So this means when you're calling things out, try and say it in as few words as possible, but still as clear as possible. I'll give you a quick example. So say there's 2 people in a house, and you've shot both of them, and they're both weak, but you get killed. Now there's 2 ways you can call this out. You can say there's 2 people in the house, one is 60% health, one 40% health, sort of portraying lots of information, and that could be, you'd think, very helpful for the player. But instead, if you said 2 people in the house, both weak, that is a lot quicker, and you do lose out on a bit of the detail, but it tells that player what they need to know as quick as possible. Now, this is especially prevalent in Call of Duty, where you've got 4 players and it's a very fast-paced game, so everybody's going to have things to call out, so making sure that you're taking up as little time to say as much information as possible is something that's very important. Now, this is a skill that takes actually quite a while to practice. I remember when I first started calling out, I'd just be stumbling over my words, sitting there thinking for ages about what I even needed to call out. It definitely comes with getting good at the game, being able to communicate and play at the same time, so maybe even if you just hop into a league play, if you know it's something you need to work on, just mentally make those call outs in your own head, or maybe mute your mic, or maybe you don't even unmute your mic if there's people that are playing actually in voice chat, and practice those call outs. Practice on playing and calling out at the same time, because it really is a skill that a lot of people haven't really taken the time to learn. But in short, just keep it as concise as possible and as clear as possible to avoid any confusion with your team. Point number 3, now this is a real quick one, but definitely something that's worth doing that's clearing up callouts. So, say for instance on Checkmate, I always refer to the fin at the back of the map as the plain fin, or just fin. But I know a lot of people also called it American because there's an American flag on it. So having that sort of confusion between different parts of the map sometimes can mess up the callouts, and people can think you mean different things to what you actually mean. That was just one example that I guess both of them is fairly clear, but there are other situations on the map that can get a little bit more confusing. So if you think it might be an issue before the game, just quickly have a word with the rest of the people on your team. Okay, what are we going to call this? What are we going to call this? It's especially prevalent for the new maps like Apocalypse and Express. I'm guessing most people didn't play that in Black Ops 2, so don't really know the callouts for that. If you did, shout out, you're an OG. But essentially, make sure you've got your callouts nice and clear so everybody knows what you're talking about. Number 4, now this is a very important one, and that is establishing an in-game leader. So this is a person that's going to make the calls, so when you need to rotate, the person at the start of the rounds who says what you're going to do that round, a person that sort of takes charge of communications for the team, and it's essential that everybody else then listens to them. Now, some people are natural in-game leaders. They're sort of their natural play style is to make those calls. Now, as an AR, I do it quite a bit, because I'm a main AR, I'm far back, I've usually got good view over the whole map, and also SMGs have a very fast playstyle, and ARs is just a little bit slower, still pretty fast. It's Call of Duty, it's a fast-paced game, but it's a little bit slower. You've got a little bit more time to watch the clock in S&D, think about strats that you might be able to do. So generally it's an AR that does it, but yeah, again, speak over it with your team. Who is going to be that in-game leader? Who's going to make those important calls? And then make sure that you listen to them. Now, even if the person that is the in-game leader is making a call that you don't necessarily agree with, I promise you that 4 people following a strategy is going to work better than 2 people or 1 and 3 just doing their own thing around the map and having no sort of synchronization between the team. So again, this is something that if you don't feel it was the right call after the game, criticize it, talk about it. But in the game, follow a strat, because if all players on the team are going to do it, it's probably going to work better than 2 sets of people doing their own thing during the game. But basically, make sure everybody knows who that in-game leader is going into the game so they know who to listen to and the strats that you're going to be playing. Last but not least, tip number 5 is probably the most important of them all, and this is don't lose momentum if you fall behind. Now, this is something you see quite a lot across, well, I'm sure if you've played enough competitive COD, you'll know this. If you go down 100 points in the hard point, if you go down 3 rounds, suddenly the callouts become very slow, very lacking, and it's a bad environment, and it's not going to help you win. If anything, when you fall down, you should be stepping up the communications even more. You should be calling out twice as hard. You should be playing twice as hard to try and make that comeback. I guarantee you that if you fall behind and then so does your comms and so does your want to win, because essentially that's what it is, there's no chance that you're going to come back. So keep the communication high, even if you fall behind. In fact, don't even look at the score. Play to win. And if you play to win all the time, doesn't matter what's going on the scoreboard, you'll keep up that communication, that momentum, and then hopefully that can carry you through. Now, this is something you see on the CDL quite a lot when they go into the Astro Gaming listen-ins. When they're going to the winning team, it's always really hyper. It's very energetic, it's very effective call-outs, very quick, and you can just tell that it's working well. And then sometimes when they go into the team that aren't winning, the call-outs are a little bit slower, there's less small talk, it's just less effective communication. Now, if even the pros are guilty of this, this shows it's something that really people struggle to do, because you'd think that the pros, they would be able to remain sort of calm under pressure, and some teams do. Some teams have a lot better call-outs when they're losing than when they don't, but make sure that you do your best to keep that consistency up, keep the call outs nice, and that will be very helpful for your team. Now, I really hope you guys have found today's video helpful. If you did, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel while you're there. I really appreciate it. Well, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.